Now, I'm really excited to introduce our speakers. Kimberly B Cummings is a career and leadership expert whose mission is to help women and people of color navigate the workplace, make more money, and become industry leaders. Her leadership development company, Manifest Yourself LLC, provides organizations with tailor-made solutions to hire, develop, engage, and retain women and people of color. Kimberly has a book that she's published called Next Move, Best Move, Transitioning into a Career You'll Love. It is a highly anticipated book set to release in spring of 2021, but obviously I'm sure Kimberly can update us on where we can get it. In conversation with Kimberly will be Valerie Ashford-Brown. As a personal growth strategist, speaker, author, and workshop facilitator, Valerie is in the people business. She consults with organizations on how to have a more inclusive culture, and she coaches ambitious women of color to lead more confidently and consciously as they shift into purposeful work. Valerie holds a master's degree in management and leadership from Webster University, and she also is a certified professional coach as well as a certified DEI professional through Cornell. I'm going to turn the stage over to you, Valerie and Kimberly. Take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Meg, for that introduction. I'm excited about this conversation. Hey, Kimberly, thanks for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me. I am great.
Good. All right. So we're going to dive right in. As you see, we are having sessions back to back. So we're going to dive right in. So Kimberly, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from, where you're living now, so forth and so on. So we'll kick it off there.
Lovely. So I always joke and say that I'm a personal and professional development junkie. My mission in this world is to help women and people of color navigate the world of work, make more money, and position themselves as leaders. Everything that I do is about giving professionals the actionable tools to significantly impact their experience in the workplace. I'm also a brand spanking new author, like Meg mentioned earlier. I published a book in June 2021 with Wiley Publishing called Next Move, Best Move, Transitioning into a Career You'll Love. And again, it's the same concept, just making sure people have the tools to navigate work with ease and, of course, make some more money.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I see the book in your lovely background. Yay, I see it there. It's so nice. So yeah, Kimberly, tell me also, or tell us a little bit about your career journey, where you started, where you are now, of course, as an author. I actually have your book as well. It's here on my desk. Oh! So yes, I have it. And then also a coworker has it. So I'm excited to get started with reading it. But tell us some insight about your career journey.
Gosh, I think my career journey is very similar to a lot of folks where I fumbled in the beginning, right? In the book, I tell a story about how my only professional goal when I graduated college was to not have to return home to my small town in Connecticut. That was literally the only goal that I had. Just don't go back home with mom and dad, make enough money to live in New York, which we all know, New York City, San Francisco, any of those cities, it is a feat. And what I learned early on in my career is that I had to be intentional about where I wanted to go because my first few jobs were just as ambiguous as I was. I didn't know what I was doing. So I got jobs where they just needed a person to do it. I didn't know what my skills were. I didn't understand how to navigate. All I knew was that I needed to make money to pay these bills, to live in New York. So I had a few jobs like that starting out of college in finance, in marketing. But when I really hit my stride was when I decided to go back into higher education. That was the first intentional move that I made because I was moving for joy. I was like, I want to feel happy. And the last time I felt happy was in college. I was like, well, there's people who work at colleges. So I transitioned from what I joke and say financial sales as a banker to educational sales as an admissions officer. And the admissions still wasn't the perfect fit for me because I wanted more time to work with students in the student journey. Most people don't remember who their admissions counselor is. They just get in and they do all the fun stuff and make all these other relationships. Right. And I wanted to be a part of that. So a job opened at my alma mater as a career development counselor. And the first time I worked with a student and saw them get a job as a direct result of working with me, I was hooked. I ended up staying in career services for nearly 10 years. I joke and say I work with folks ages 18 who don't know what to do with their life, all the way through folks in their 60s, because I work with alumni populations and they were transitioning into something that they thought would bring them joy or pulling all their skills together. to do something different. After working in career services for that good stint, I moved into talent acquisition. I wanted to see the other side of the house. So I served as
Mm.
the director of global diversity talent acquisition strategy, where I built out the strategy for a Fortune 100 company to recruit and promote their diverse talent. So a lot of analytics, a lot of really partnering with other organizations like A Power to Fly to make sure
Yeah.
that they knew where to get the talent and bring them in. And then as of this year, I moved to do my own company. So I founded Manifest Yourself back in probably 2013, got serious in 2017, resigned from my job this past May 2021. And now I do this full time, working with individuals and companies to really make sure they know how to engage, retain, and promote their talent.
Mm. Wow, I love that. I love all of this. I mean, you just gave us like the A to Z approach, and I love it. And even you talking about the manifest yourself, I saw that, and I just think that is absolutely wonderful. You talked about being intentional,
Mhm.
and I think that's really important as we make the next move in career transitioning. So that's really good. So, Kimberly, we love to know more about how you are helping women and people of color navigate the workplace and all that's going on, even in the future of work. We love to know more about that. So talk a little bit about that.
So the world of work, as we know, is changing every single day. I run an accelerator program where I work with professionals for 4 months, and even right now, seeing trends of what's happening as kids are going back to school. And
Mhm.
they've been by themselves for 18 months at home. Children are catching COVID, and how that
Mhm.
impacts my clients who are interviewing, who now have kids who are back home quarantining for 14 days or are sick. And it's just the world of work is impacted in so many different ways. So for me, it's about making sure that I'm able to provide actionable strategies. How do you navigate various conversations? How do you advocate for yourself? How do you find mentorship, sponsorship? How do you actually figure out what it is that you want to do? At the end of my
Mhm.
book, the whole book brings you through a career development process, but the goal is at the end that you'll have a 2-year career strategy to make your next move. And I think that's what a lot of women and people of color are missing. A lot of professionals, honestly, in general, are missing a strategy so that they're able to create a roadmap for themselves. Many times we're waiting for our manager or the organization to kind of pull us where we're supposed to go, or we're hoping that, doing the great work will help you get there. I know my dad he's a military vet. He was the postmaster general for the state of Connecticut. So he's used to, like, it just happened, right? You put your head down, you do great work, and over time you'll move. But that's not how things work now. It's a lot more about positioning. And that's what I really focus on, especially for women and people of color. If we get into the conversation about the pay gap and
Mhm.
inequities and microaggressions and bias in the workplace, women and people of color are the ones who are most significantly impacted. So that's why I really work with those populations to make sure they have the skills to make change.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good. You said a lot there too. It reminds me of being the CEO of me.
Yes.
That whole, yeah, that theme around just being in control of the direction that you want to go in your career and then also in life. So that's really good. So while workplaces are now being more inclusive to women and people of color, there's still a long way to go with it, right? As you
Yes.
talked about, like the pay gap, and we could have a whole nother conversation about the
Good.
wage gap.
Yes, good.
I mean, we could have just like go down a whole like rabbit hole with that, with the whole pay gap. But can you talk about some of the actionable insights on how people can spot opportunities in their network and grow them as in all in what you said? Just give us some more insight and some actionable steps around those things that we can do.
So number one, you have to know what you want. I don't
Mm.
want anyone going out there and speaking to their contacts, putting out feelers. You have to understand when you're looking to make a move, it's important for
Mhm.
you to understand what is your skill set? What is your superpower? What is your zone of genius? I love The Big Leap, a book by Gay Hendricks, I believe.
Yes.
And he talks about
Mhm.
operating in your zone of genius. So, what is
Yeah.
your zone of genius in the workplace? And how can you magnify that? So, when you're looking to make your next move, then you could really have fruitful conversations. If you're confused and you're not sure, that's fine too. But then we're not having next move conversations. We're having exploratory conversations to help you better understand. But I think it all starts with, what is it that you want to do? I have a framework that I teach my clients, like even understanding what is the next move for you. I think many people think that the next move has to be what I call new role, new experience, right? It's that job where you're a fish out of water. You got to put your head down at least for the next like 2 years to master it. It's brand new. It's always promotional, but sometimes we don't need a promotional opportunity. Sometimes we need to maximize where we are. Sometimes we need to add in a new project or a new skill set. Maybe we need a lateral move that gives you another skill set so that you can make the next move later. There are various types of moves. I think it's important to understand what you're good at, understand what type of move is appropriate for you right now. And then once you know those things about yourself, then go out and build the relationship or tap into your network by having those coffee chats, doing your research about the industry you're interested in, and using that to take you to the next place.
Yeah, that's really good. Self-awareness. Can we sum it up as self-awareness?
Yes,
and then also blooming where we're planted sometimes, right? Is that what you're saying there?
Yes, and I think people don't want to hear that. They get really upset when I say
No.
that. Really, really upset. But I think that unless you're in a situation, I have a whole chapter in my book that's called How to Know When It's Time to Go. So there are some situations where it's time for you to go. But I do think many times you can maximize where you are. I always say use everything you've got where you are, every single thing, so that your next move is even easier. It doesn't have to be where you have to, you got to wait till you get to the new place. You could do it right here, right now.
Love it, love it, love it. All right. Okay. So definitely some actionable steps there. So as we talk more about this, anything else that you would add on how we can align opportunities with our purpose? Purpose is a big word now, and with our skill sets, and then also with our learning. Anything else that we could do to align opportunities with that?
So I think that again is really about that self-assessment, right? Once you understand what you're good at, right? What are you good at? What is the industry that you like to go into? What are the types of things that you like? You can match all these things together almost like a puzzle. I give my clients a mini assessment where I have them write down all of the jobs that they've ever had and all of the skills that they have acquired. And I mean the good, the bad, and the ugly, everything. And literally cross out things you never want to do again, because we need to know those, right? What are the things, like for me, like data analytics? Please, I will cry. I don't want to be in Excel. I don't want a pivot table. Anyone who knows me says that I know that's always a skill I share. I have no interest in that mess.
You and me both.
Yes. I'm like, what? You want me to build out a strategy? You want me to build out a framework? You want me to present to senior stakeholders? That's my jam. I'll do it all day, every day. And then think about, what are you excited about? Like, what brings you joy? So for me, I need to be in an area where I love human resources because I'm always connecting with people. I also love music, absolutely love music. So think about how you can match like your skills, your interests, and things that bring you joy. And it takes a little time. I think many times when we think about the world of work, we're thinking way too far. We're thinking about, okay, that 5-year or 10-year, where will we be? But think about what you can do in the next 2 years that aligns to who you are, what makes you happy, and what you feel your deeper purpose is. That's why the strategy I always do is 2 years, because so much can change in that time. Think about what you'd like to do, what will bring you joy, and how this can serve as a stepping stone for the next thing. The way I break it down is, you want to know where you want to be in 10 years, right? And I always say that's the fairy godmother. If you're working with me, I snap my fingers and say, where do you want to be in 10 years? And you got to answer quick. I just want to hear it. What do you want to be in 10 years? Then we cut that in half. Where do we want to be in 5 years? Like, where do we need to be in 5 to get to the 10? And then we break it down again. Like, what do we need to do in this 2-year span? Break it down into chunks, and you can move. Again, like as much as we just said, like bloom where you're planted. You're also not a tree. So you can bloom where you're planted, or you could pick that bad boy up and go someplace else. So things can move if you're no longer happy.
I love it. I love it, Kimberly. So listen, we have a couple of questions in the chat that I want us to talk about, since we're on the topic of transferable skills. So someone is asking, stepping into a transition role, even with transferable skills, sounds very manageable. However, direct experience appears to win out over transferable skills with so many in the job market. How do we set ourselves above those with direct experience? What are your thoughts?
So this is very, very common, and I hear you. So the interview process, the secret to interviewing is storytelling. And I know this may sound super simple, but the questions you're being asked are most likely behavioral. Tell me about a time when. Can you explain the last time that when you did X, what happened here? They want to hear stories. The entire interview process is you walking the interviewer through how you would do things, and they're thinking about how you would do it if selected for that role. So when you have transferable skills, it's important that you make it crystal clear how what you've done that is unrelated would help you do the skill for that interview. And that's where some practice, some mock interviews could be super helpful, because it's literally about storytelling. And the harsh reality I always say is that it's not the hiring manager, it's not the recruiter's job to know that those are transferable skills. It's not, it's your job. You have to make sure that you tell that story so clear that they can see you doing the job. Yes, someone may beat you out a little bit if they've done it. However, as clear as you can possibly be, people also want to see innovation. They want to see things that are a little bit different. As much as we could say someone who's done the job is really prepared, someone who has not but has transferable skills can innovate in a way that person who's been stuck there will never be able to. So focus on your storytelling to make it clear why you're the right person.
That's really good. Storytelling. Okay, so focus on the storytelling. All right, I'm going to move to the next question. It says, I know you're speaking towards tapping into your current network, but are there any societies or organizations you sought out to expand your reach?
Oh my gosh, I tell so many stories about professional associations because they exponentially took my career to the next level. I have another chapter in my book called Relationships Are Still Everything, because they are. And if you feel like you don't have a great network for yourself, professional associations are incredible. So you're a part of one right now, being a part of the Power to Fly network. Like, that's an organization. I've been a member of industry specific, so SHRM, Society for Human Resource Professionals. When I was in higher ed, the National Association of Colleges and Employers, I was in the Eastern chapter. I was in a bunch of the different chapters, even like smaller local chapters. I'm a former president for the New York State Cooperative Experiential Education Association. I'm a former board member for the National Sales Network. There's so many. Literally, if you Google professional association and put your industry, or put women, put Latinx, put Black, whatever you identify as, you will find a professional association, and they are doing so many amazing events, even virtually or in person as things are coming back. Double down, get involved, and make connections. And also, like, my little secret is trying to get on the board, volunteering. It's one thing to go, but it's another thing to embed yourself in the community by doing some type of volunteer position.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, Kimberly. Really being intentional about your role. So we have another question here, and I think all the questions are great. This one's really good as well. And Patty is asking, really good question here. If you feel like it's difficult to find that joy and meaning in your work, although you like it, HR, should you try to get that outside of your job? I am struggling to find that meaning in corporate America.
I think you can. I think this is a lot. In this day and age, so many people are side hustling, right? I know I side hustled from 2013 to 2021. So the joy I experienced through running my business and from professional associations, that's how I kind of doubled down on things that made me happy by finding that community or experimenting with my business that ultimately became my full-time job. I look at, this may sound a little bad, but I want you to go with me here, okay? I look at jobs almost like marriage, right? Like, when you think about your career and you think about what you're doing, you need to have some base level of love, some base level of excitement for the industry, the field, etc. Like, the reason why you keep on showing up the next day. However, like a marriage, some days your partner, you don't like them that much. There's days. And you just just leave for a little bit. Like, I just need to go to the spa. I just prefer not to see your face just for a little bit. But you still love them, so you always come home, right? That's how I think about the world of work. Like, that baseline level of love is what keeps you, like, getting up in the morning. There's a drive to continue to show up and do great work. You have to have that base so that you're not disgruntled all the time. But the sometimes that may wane a little bit, and that's okay. It could just be maybe you've been in your job for too long. Maybe your boss isn't that great. Maybe it's a season of transition. It's a little bit difficult. That's okay. You could definitely find that fulfillment outside of the confines of the 9 to 5 and see if it works. And it may be different things. I've been in various professional associations, which 100% supplemented my joy that I wasn't necessarily getting in my job, and actually improved my day-to-day experience and helped me
Mhm.
transition into something I felt was a little bit better.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good. That's good. Gosh, the whole switching gears and really falling in love again with where you are, and then self-awareness. All of this is playing a part in the answers. So just switching gears a little bit, because we coming up on our time, and I
Right.
really want to talk about your book. Next
Okay.
move, yes, next move, best move, transitioning into a career you love. So tell us about what inspired you to write your book.
Oh my gosh, y'all, I have it right here. This is my baby. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I'd say writing a book is one of the hardest things I've ever done. A hundred
Mm,
percent. But I think I love to speak in public. When the world was open, I still average probably 50 to 75 engagements a year. I love connecting with audiences and giving them actionable tips that they can take home. But I also realize there's only so much I can do, right? Like Valerie, we've had 30 minutes. And I feel like
yeah.
we've only been talking for 15 and almost over. There's
Almost
only,
over.
there's only so
We're
much
having
more
too
I can
much
do.
fun.
Exactly. But with a book, that allows someone to take all the strategies that I share to their home for only $19.95. It is affordable. You can highlight, you can learn. My book is very actionable in that I tell stories so you'll get to know me a little bit. And then I talk about a core concept. And at the end of each chapter, I have a section called Your Next Move, named after my podcast, which literally tells you what to do, like step by step. So if you just want to read the Your Next Move section, you don't care about what happened in my life, that's fine too. But I tell you exactly what needs to be done. For me, it was about being able to give a body of work that could be used over and over and over again. What I tell my
Mhm.
clients all the time is that when I work with you, I'm teaching you skills, not just for right now. I want you to, when your next transition happens, you're able to rinse and repeat and do it again. This is more of like
Mhm.
a manual that you can continue to use. And I really wanted to give a gift to my audience, to anyone who's ever heard me speak or anyone who may hear me speak in the future. That was the most important thing about putting this body of work out there. And secret, I'm kind of working on book number 2 already. Clearly, I
You
like the
know, I was
crazy.
going to ask that. So when should we expect that? Like approximately? Like
Oh
when?
yeah,
Next
not no
year?
time soon. I still have
No time soon?
PTSD. Yes, I
Okay.
think 2024 most likely.
Oh,
2024.
okay. Okay. All right. So sometime. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll follow you. That's what I'll do.
Yes,
Make
please.
sure.
Yes, please.
Make sure. So you know what, Kimberly, too, another question that I think would serve our audience is, we have a lot of professionals here online and watching, and we like to know more about your advice on how professionals should approach developing leadership skills. That's so big now. You talked about storytelling, and then
Mhm.
I think another piece of it when we're talking about making our next move is showcasing those leadership skills. So, what would you add to that, or say about how we can do that as professionals?
So number one, get feedback. Figure out what is the area specifically that you need assistance with. This can be through your performance appraisal. It could be through asking
Mm,
mentors, through your peers. Figure out what core facet of leadership you need help with. Is it communication? Is it presentation? Is it managing up, down, and across? Like, what is it that you need assistance with? And then tap into your
mhm,
networks. Like, you're here right now. This is a
mhm,
professional development event. This is helping you cultivate leadership skills. What other events with Power to Fly or your company or external organizations can you participate in to help you level up in your career?
mm,
There's so many opportunities. I think that when we talk about some skill sets, like I joked about, like I don't like Excel, I don't. That's not a skill that I'm looking to master. I don't think I have to. I've always hired analysts. I hire people to help me do those things because I think some people love it. But when we think about creating and presenting strategic ideas, that is something you gotta do. You got to figure
mhm,
out when you have ideas in the workplace how to bring them forward. That's a core leadership skill, is thinking strategically. If that is something you know is crucial, and for many professionals it is, it's important to seek out how can you obtain that information. There are
Mhm.
so many programs, either through a professional association or a company like mine that provides like leadership development trainings or programs to help you cultivate that. Don't be afraid to seek it out and reach out to your employer and see if you can use that professional development budget. Some people have a
Yeah.
budget they can help you with. I would also say that don't be afraid if you don't have that budget. I paid for all of my personal and professional development for
Mm.
years before any company ever gave me a dime for it. And I think that I really credit that to how I was able to excel so much faster.
Mm.
I wasn't going to sit there and just wait. I was like, I know where I want to be and I know I need
Right.
help. So I invested, I saved my coins or got myself on a payment plan and I
Yeah.
made sure I got the information I needed and it paid off tenfold in my career.
That's good. And Kimberly, you know what? That brings me to the next question. Before we ask where we can find you, you talked about your own personal development and investing in yourself. What are your thoughts on salary negotiation as we move to that next level, that next move? What about the salary negotiation? Share some tips there.
Always negotiate. Always. Always, always,
Okay.
always, always, always. I am a big believer in salary negotiation, but I think that it's not something we just go out and ask for, even though I just told you to go ask for the money. Number one, like do your research.
Mhm.
Figure out payscale.com, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, determine what the target salary range is for that role in your industry. Things are a little wonky now because a lot of things are remote, but come up with the range that you see. You have to do your research so you know what is reasonable. Many times I work with new college grads in some creative field and like, I need to make six figures. You're not making six figures. You're not,
Mhm.
because that's not
Mhm.
even available to you in the field that you're in at that time with your
Right.
skill level. Once you know the range, then figure out where do you fall in that range. Maybe you're at the higher end, maybe you're in the middle. Figure out that 10 to 15K salary range that is appropriate for you. And then when you're going through the process, be prepared to discuss that in the phone screening. The company
Mm.
wants to make sure that you're fit salary wise, and you want to make sure you're fit for that company. And
Mhm.
not being afraid to talk about it there is really important. And then when we get to the end, well, before we get to the end, remember that the company is evaluating you the entire interview process. You don't want to come back at the end and be like, but I told you that I did this, or I forgot to say this. They're kind of adding a dollar number on top of your head based upon the experience you're creating in the interview, based upon how you're articulating your stories, showcasing your experience. You want to set yourself up for a good offer. No one wants to get a lowball offer and you have to crawl your way up to what's reasonable. You want the
Mhm.
company to be like, oh my gosh, if I don't get Valerie, like we need to throw everything at her because she has to be here. So make
Yeah.
sure you're setting that up with your stories, showcasing your skills. And if you get an offer, when you get the offer and it's not in your range or you want to negotiate a little bit more, remember you're basing that on your skill sets. And
Mhm.
that's what you're going
Mhm.
to use as the baseline for getting to the next area. It's not
Sure.
just because you want it, it's because you have built a track record of success. And
Mhm.
that's what warrants the salary. I tell all my clients, remember, you are lending your skills to the company during your tenure there, lending
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to stand on that as you're negotiating.
All right. Thank you so much, Kimberly. This has been amazing. Thank you very much. Before we leave, though, tell us where we can find you, how we can support you, and get this marvelous book. So tell us really
Yes.
quickly.
So you can go to KimberlyBCummings.com, at Kim B Cummings on Instagram. That's probably where I spend the most of my time. And you can buy Next Move, Best Move wherever books are sold, Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, all the places. And sometimes I go into cities and I sign the books at local bookstores. So if you watch me on Instagram, every once in a while, I'll go sign some. And if you hurry up, you can go get them wherever it is.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much. All right. I'm going to turn it back over to Meg. Bye, Kimberly. Thank you.